Hello book lovers, and welcome to the Non-Fiction and Gifting Books chapter of this year's Most Beautiful Books of the Year annual holiday gift guide. Beautiful, fascinating conversation starters that are perfect for pressing into someone's hands or holding tightly into your own. As usual, details and links to everything I mention are included in the description box below. To start today's roundup, I want to celebrate the simple joy of reading itself, magical places that stories can take us and the people who help us get there. Women of the Fairy Tale Resistance by Jane Harrington focuses on 7 17th century French noblewomen known as les conteuses, the storytellers, who coined the term conte de fées, which in English became fairy tales, and they used subversively feminist stories as vehicles for political rage against the rule under King Louis XIV. Each chapter gives a short, lively biography of one of these women, and then retellings of several of her tales, exploring how grandmothers, witches and enchanted princesses were used to smuggle in critiques of patriarchy, forced marriage and even homophobia. Jane teaches fairy tales and worldcraft at university, so you can trust in the research and storyteller's delight she has in reclaiming these women's names. It's gorgeously produced with full-colour illustrations throughout. Coalet's art leans into lush, slightly surreal fairy tale imagery. Protectors of the Written World by Vincent Fan is a narrative biography book spun out of the 1,000 Libraries project. It contains 25 stories of people around the world who've dedicated their lives to books and reading, booksellers, librarians and other book guardians. The characters are interesting, and reading about intensely hopeful, practical acts of bookish kindness just fills the heart. It's a lovely fancy edition that was originally released on Kickstarter, but you can now buy it direct from the publisher. It's got vegan leather binding, which, is just a great marketing name for plastic, but it does feel very nice. Gold-foiled Victorian-style decoration, gilded page edges, a ribbon marker, and a gold slip case. Unfortunately, there are a few weird editing issues in the book, so it does at times feel like reading a self-published book rather than a fine edition, but I enjoyed it nonetheless. I mentioned in my Children and Young at Heart Literature Roundup video how children's books fill us with delight, and Worlds of Wonder, edited by Daniel Hahn, complements that feeling with a big, lush survey of 75 children's classics from around the world, spanning roughly 150 years, from The Little Mermaid and Little Women through to Harry Potter, Inkheart and Wonder, with contributions from a whole roster of children's lit critics and writers. The essays are 1 or 2 pages each, grouped into 4 eras: First Golden Age, New Horizons, Modern Narratives and Contemporary Classics. Visually, it's full of original artwork, film stills, sketches and manuscript pages. Daniel's a well-known writer, translator and editor, and the book includes input from several leading children's lit specialists. There's a heavy focus on British literature, as you might expect, but it does actually cover books from over 20 countries. And I'm pretty familiar with kid-lit books, but there are a couple in here that were new to me from other countries that I'm excited to seek out. Keeping with the topic of children's books, The Haunted Wood, A History of Childhood Reading by Sam Leith, is a fascinating cultural history of not only what children have read, but also how our thoughts about what childhood is changes over time. As Sam says, the right book at the right time can turn somebody into a reader for life, and his survey travels from ancient fables and Aesop through the Victorian Edwardian Golden Age and into modern phenomena. This one has an even stronger British focus, with a small American section and a modest number of European authors, but I enjoyed the inclusion of Sam's personal anecdotes and opinions, as well as the mini-biographies of famous children's authors. Next, I thought we might look at a couple of inspirational books full of encouragement, wisdom, and reminders that the world can be kind and hopeful when you need a boost. Always Remember is Charlie Mackessie's follow-up to The Boy, the Mole, the Fox and the Horse. It sends the same 4 friends back into the wilds, this time facing a literal and metaphorical storm together. The book's essentially a sequence of vignettes and hand-lettered lines about grief, fear, and love when times are dark. Charlie's books may seem simple and childlike on the surface, but they tell powerful stories of hope and resilience. I'd like to share one affirmation with you today, in the words of his fox. When you think of everyone you love, I hope you include yourself. The Little Frog's Guide to Life is another illustrated incarnation of inspirational messages from a popular internet character, the Mushroom Frog. It includes cosy advice and sweet little illustrated scenarios of a green frog navigating everyday anxieties. The text is simple but feels genuinely kind rather than saccharine. Leans into tiny joys, giving yourself time, and letting go of perfection. The meta topic of books about books is one of my favourite rabbit holes to dive into. Spun out of Valerie Stever's long-running Eat Your Words column, the Writer's Table pairs about 50 authors with recipes connected to their lives or works, like the white soup mentioned in Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice, a recipe for Maya Angelou's mother's caramel cake that she published in her food memoir Hallelujah, a Tolstoy family recipe for soup, a chicken hash dish that Truman Capote served at a party, and more like that. Each entry includes a short biographical sketch focusing on the writer's relationship with food, and then a modernised recipe you can actually cook. These are accompanied by Katie Tomlinson's cheerful, slightly whimsical line and colour drawings of the writers and their dishes. Some of the recipes are more speculative than authentic, but it's a great sort of thing to use with a book club. Miranda Mills is a popular slow living and reading YouTuber, and her Country Commonplace books are lovely illustrated cornucopia of curated quotes, poems, recipes and theme notes that align with the seasons. It's British cottagecore in the nicest sense, with lovely liner cut illustrations by Debbie Powell. Now let's venture outside for a moment and look at some lovely books about the natural world. In the delightfully named Penguin Book of Penguins, penguin expert Peter Fretwell from the British Antarctic Survey gives an accessible tour of 18 penguin species, evolution, behaviours, habitats, and their often fraught relationship with humans. It's designed as a joyful but sobering gift book, It makes clear that penguins' cult popularity hasn't protected them. Many colonies are threatened by overfishing and pollution and climate change, and Fretwell uses his research on emperor penguins in particular to show how they're indicators of Antarctic ecosystem health. The book also includes black and white illustrations by his wife Lisa. I saw an interview with her where she mentioned being married to the author meant he was pretty involved in making sure the illustrations were scientifically accurate as well as pretty. Jerry Moore's an anthropologist and archaeologist, and thus his approach to the Book of Cat Tales recounts stories of feline history, examining the long, complicated relationship between humans and cats. From prehistoric scimitar-toothed predators and Paleolithic lion art, to ship's cats, witch trials, internet memes and domestication. It's narrative non-fiction rather than a coffee table photo book, so although there are a lot of photographs, expect to focus more on the text. I do have some cat fiction coming up in a future video in this series, if that's more up your alley. And I've got some dog non-fiction books in the website article as well for the dog lovers, so please don't feel left out. This pocket-sized series of 4 books takes readers on a journey through the seasons, featuring beautiful prints and observations by British printmaker and illustrator Angela Harding from landscapes across the UK. Here I'm showing Falling into Autumn, and the others are charmingly named Winter's Song, Spring Unfurled and Summer's Hum. Each season features at least 30 gorgeous prints that you'd love to frame and have on your wall, but if you collect her works, do be aware that the prints and text are taken from 3 of her other larger collections, A Year Unfolding, Wild Light and Still Waters and Wild Waves. And finally, let's finish up today with a few moments of quirky joy. A couple of these aren't out yet in Australia, so I'm showing you screenshots, but the last one is one of my favourite books of the year. E is for Edward is a warm, comprehensive celebration of almost 50 years of Edward Gorey's work, written by the director of the Edward Gorey House, Gregory Hishak. It not only looks at Gorey's work as author and illustrator, but also fabric artist, stage designer and playwright. The book's organised by the major themes and topics that characterise his work, like hapless children and mutant menageries, and it also explores his recurring motifs and the symbolism that underlies much of his work. There's lots of full-page images, white space and fascinating text. Scottish illustrator Tom Gauld has written many of my favourite literary cartoon collections, which I highly recommend if you haven't seen them yet. His observations in Revenge of the Librarians are hilarious. Physics for Cats, which was just released, is his second science-based collection, and the cartoons are equally clever. Most of them were first published in New Scientist magazine, and so I'm sharing a few of them here for your entertainment. And last but definitely not least, we've got a book that's been a huge hit at my house. The Language Lover's Lexipedia is a witty and absolutely fascinating curiosity cabinet of linguistic trivia. Everyone who's picked it up here and flipped to any page starts calling out, "Wow, did you know? The ampersand's been around since before the Pompeii eruption. The dot above a lowercase I or j is called a tittle." And there's a list of Scottish insults that was a pretty big hit as well. We've also got a copy of the game that spawned this book, which is called League of the Lexicon, which they bill as the ultimate game for language lovers, and it really is full of fantastic questions that range from definitions and word usage to trivia and tests of your linguistic creativity. I do recommend the game too, and as a bonus, if you read this book first, you'll be well prepared to beat your friends in the game. And that's it for this video. There are a few bonus titles in the accompanying article that didn't make it out to Australia in time to be filmed this year, so check that out if you want some more inspiration. It's linked in the description box. Thank you so much for watching. The next video in this series will be up soon, so please subscribe if you want to be notified about it. Till next time. Bye!